Most people never think about who digs the grave. They attend the funeral. They stand quietly. They listen. They leave flowers. And then they go home. The work happens before that. And it happens after. Grave diggers are almost invisible. You rarely notice them. They don't stand with the family. They don't speak during services. They stay back, out of sight, out of the way. Most of them prefer it that way. For many grave diggers, it's just a job, hard work, physical work, repetitive work, date, measure, lower, feed, the same movements, over and over, again, day after day, week after week. Most grave diggers will tell you the same thing. At first, cemeteries don't feel scary. They feel quiet, sometimes even peaceful. You hear birds. You hear wind moving through trees. You hear distant traffic. During the day, it feels like any other outdoor job. The sun is up. People are nearby. You know where you are. But night shifts are different. At night, the cemetery changes. The familiar paths feel longer. The shadows stretch farther than they should. The air feels heavier. There are no visitors, no families, no reason for anyone else to be there. Just a worker and the graves. Many cemeteries require night work, emergency burials, weather delays, early morning services. Someone has to prepare the ground. Someone has to be there when everyone else is gone. And very often, that person is alone. Grave diggers get used to being alone. They work with their head down. They focus on the task. They don't let the place get into their thoughts. That's the rule. Most of them don't believe in anything paranormal. They don't want to. Believing would make the job impossible. So they stick to routine. Same shovel, same measurements, same steps. They tell themselves, it's just dirt, just stone, just space. But over time, certain stories started to repeat. Not rumors, not legends, personal experiences, shared quietly, usually after someone quit or refused a shift or asked not to be scheduled alone anymore. What's strange is that these people didn't know each other. Different states, different cemeteries, different ages, yet the details were similar. The same hesitation, the same sudden unease, the same sentence said calmly, I'm not doing this alone again. Most grave diggers say it wasn't fear at first. It was confusion. Something felt wrong, but nothing obvious happened. No screams, no figures rising from the ground, no dramatic moment, just small things, sounds that didn't belong, movements that didn't make sense, moments where their body reacted before their mind did. Most tried to ignore it. They blamed fatigue, cold air, stress, long hours, but then it happened again and again, always when they were alone, always when no one else was around. One grave digger said the hardest part wasn't what he saw, it was what he felt. A sudden need to step back, a pressure in his chest, a clear sense that staying would be a mistake. Another said the silence itself changed, not quieter, different, as if the cemetery was listening. Every grave digger we spoke to agreed on one thing. Whatever happened, it didn't feel imagined. It didn't feel like fear. It felt like a warning. Most of them finished their shift, packed up, went home, and came back the next day, acting normal, but quietly, things changed. They asked for day shifts. They worked in pairs. They avoided certain sections, certain graves, certain hours. And when asked why, they didn't explain. They just said it wasn't worth it. In the next stories, you'll hear from grave diggers who experienced moments they still don't talk about openly. Moments that made them step back. Moments that changed how they worked forever. Because sometimes the ground you dig doesn't feel empty. And sometimes being alone isn't the safest option. The grave digger in this story was new, not brand new, but new enough to still be careful. He had been working at the cemetery for a few months, mostly daytime shifts, mostly supervised. He learned the basics quickly. How deep to dig, how wide, how to work around roots and stones. Nothing about the job bothered him, at least, not at first. When his supervisor asked if he could handle a night shift alone, he said yes. He didn't hesitate. He needed the hours. And honestly, he didn't see the problem. It was just digging, just dirt. The cemetery was large, old, quiet, but familiar. He arrived just after sunset. The sky was still light enough to see without a flashlight. He parked near the maintenance shed, checked his tools, checked the location, then walked toward the gravesite. It was in an older section, farther from the road, fewer lights. The headstones, they were older, some leaning, some cracked, names worn thin by time. He started working. At first, everything felt normal. The shovel hit soil, then clay, then more soil. The rhythm settled in. Dig, lift, step, dump. Minutes passed, then more. The light faded completely. He turned on his work lamp. The beam created a small circle around him. Everything outside of it disappeared. That's when he noticed the silence. Not sudden, not dramatic, just noticeable. No insects, no wind, no distant sounds, just the scrape of metal against dirt. He told himself that was normal. Cemeteries are quiet. That's the point. He kept working. Then he heard something behind him. Not a voice, not footsteps, movement, like soil shifting. He froze, held his breath, listened, nothing. He told himself it was just the ground settling. Fresh earth does that. He went back to digging. A few minutes later, it happened again, this time closer, right behind him. He turned quickly. The light swept across headstones, trees, empty ground. Nothing was there. No one. He stood there longer this time, waiting, listening. The silence felt thicker now. He tried to shake it off, told himself he was overthinking. Night work messes with your head. That's what people say. He went back to work, and something else happened. He felt the urge to step back. Strong, immediate, like his body reacted before he thought about it. He dropped the shovel, stepped away from the grave. His heart was racing. Not panic, just alert, focused, like something had gone wrong, and he didn't know why. He stood there, staring at the hole. Nothing moved, nothing changed, but the feeling didn't go away. He waited a few minutes, tried to calm himself, tried to laugh it off. Eventually, he picked up his shovel again, finished the job, but he rushed, didn't take his time, didn't look around. When he was done, he packed up immediately, didn't linger, didn't check his phone. He left the cemetery as soon as he could. At home, he didn't sleep well. He told himself it was nerves. First solo shift, nothing more. The next day, his supervisor asked how it went. He paused, then said it was fine, mostly, but he asked something, casually, if future night shifts could be scheduled with someone else. The supervisor didn't argue, didn't ask why, just nodded. Apparently, it wasn't the first time someone had asked. He never worked a night shift alone again, and he never forgot that feeling, that sudden certainty, that being there by himself was a mistake. This grave digger had worked nights before. He wasn't new. He wasn't nervous. He knew the cemetery. He knew the ground. He knew how soil behaved. That's why this stayed with him. The burial was scheduled for early morning, which meant the grave had to be prepared the night before. He arrived after dark. The cemetery was quiet. No wind, no traffic, just rows of stones fading into shadow. The grave was in a newer section. The soil there was soft, easy to work. He set up his lights, checked his measurements, and started digging. The work went smoothly at first. The shovel cut through dirt. The rhythm felt familiar. Dig, lift, dump. Time passed. Then the shovel hit something. Not a rock, not roots. Something hollow. The sound was wrong, dull. He stopped, stood still, listened, nothing. He leaned closer and scraped again. The same sound. He felt a tightness in his chest. Not fear, concern. There shouldn't be anything there. He cleared more soil. Carefully, slowly, the ground beneath the shovel shifted, just slightly, like something settling. Then it shifted again, more noticeable. He stepped back, watched the surface of the grave. The soil moved, not collapsing, not sliding, lifting, just a little, then stopping. He waited, held his breath. The light flickered as a breeze passed, but there was no breeze. The air was still. The ground moved again, this time deeper, like pressure from below. He dropped the shovel, stepped away. His heart was racing now. Fussed, controlled. Every instinct told him not to be there. He stood at a distance, watching, waiting. Nothing else happened. After several minutes, the ground settled. The surface looked normal again. Flat. Still, he didn't continue digging. He packed up his tools, turned off the lights, left the area. He reported it the next morning. The supervisor checked the site, found nothing unusual. No collapse, no disturbance, no explanation. The grave digger was reassigned. Day shifts only. He never prepared a grave alone at night again. He said what scared him most wasn't the movement. It was the certainty, the clear feeling that if he stayed, something worse would have happened. This grave digger worked alone. That was normal. Most grave diggers do. The cemetery trusted him. He was careful, quiet, reliable. He preferred working early in the morning before sunrise when no families were around. That morning started like any other. Cold air, heavy fog, the kind that sits low to the ground and blurs everything past a few feet. The cemetery felt smaller in fog, closer, like the headstones were watching. He parked his truck near the tool shed, unlocked the gate, stepped inside. The fog swallowed the path behind him almost immediately. He grabbed his equipment, checked the grave location, and started walking. Each step sounded louder than normal. Crunching gravel, soft dirt, his own breathing. He reached the plot, an older section, no recent burials nearby. He placed his tools down, adjusted his gloves, and took a breath. That's when he heard it. A voice, quiet, low, close. It said his name, not shouted, not whispered, spoken, like someone standing just behind his shoulder. He froze, didn't turn, didn't answer. His mind searched for logic. Another worker? A visitor? Someone lost in the fog? He waited. Nothing. The fog drifted slowly. The silence returned. He let out a breath, picked up his shovel, told himself it was stress, or imagination, or the fog playing tricks. He pushed the thought away and started digging. The sound of the shovel was grounding. Real. Solid. Dirt didn't lie. After a few minutes, he felt calmer. Focused. Then it happened again. His name. This time slower. Clearer. Right behind him. He dropped the shovel. Turned around. There was no one. Just fog. Thick. Unmoving. He scanned left. Right. Nothing. No footsteps. No movement. No shape. Just rows of stones fading into white. His heart was pounding now. Not panic. Warning. The kind that tightens your stomach. He grabbed his phone. No signal. He reached for his radio. Static. Only static. Then the voice spoke again. Closer than before. Almost beside his ear. It said his name, and then it said something else. Something only his family used to say. A nickname. One he hadn't heard since childhood. His hands started shaking. That name was not public. It wasn't written anywhere. No one at work knew it. He backed away slowly. Every step felt heavy. The fog thickened. Sound felt wrong. Muffled. Dull. The voice followed. Not shouting. Not chasing. Just present. Repeating his name. Over and over. Always calm. Never angry. That was worse. He reached the path. Then the gate. He didn't run. He didn't look back. He got into his truck. Locked the doors. Sat there shaking. The fog pressed against the windows. He waited until the sun rose. When the fog finally cleared, the cemetery looked normal. Peaceful. Empty. Too empty. He quit the same day. No notice. No explanation. He later told someone this. If it had sounded angry, I could have fought fear. But it sounded like it knew me. And I don't believe anything that knows your name in a cemetery is harmless. He never returned. This gravedigger had been doing this job for a long time. Long enough to stop counting years. Long enough to stop thinking about death. To him, graves were measurements. Depth, width, spacing, nothing more. He worked alone. Preferred it that way. Less talk, less distraction, more control. This job was scheduled late. Too late. The family had requested a private burial at dawn, which meant the grave had to be finished before morning. The cemetery was old, older than most buildings in the town. The headstones leaned. The paths were uneven. Some names were worn smooth. He arrived just after midnight. The air was cold. Still. Too still. No insects. No wind. He unlocked the gate, closed it behind him. The sound echoed longer than it should have. He followed the path using a headlamp. The beam cut a narrow tunnel through the dark. Everything outside had disappeared. The grave was already marked. Fresh soil on top. Recent burial. A temporary marker. That's when he paused. He checked the paperwork. Looked again. This grave had already been filled. The burial happened earlier that day. There should have been nothing left to do. But the paperwork said otherwise. Reopen. Depth adjustment. Inspection. He didn't like it. But instructions were instructions. He set his tools down. Removed the top layer of soil. Slow. Careful. Respectful. The dirt was packed tight. Heavy. Not settled yet. As expected, he worked for several minutes. Then he smelled something. Not decay. Not soil. Breath. Warm. Clothes. He stopped digging. Listened. Nothing. He told himself it was his imagination. Fatigue. Cold air. He leaned back in. The smell returned. Stronger. Humid. He froze. His light flickered. Just once. Then steadied. He aimed the beam into the grave. The soil shifted. Not collapsing. Moving. Downward. Like weight adjusting. Then came a sound. A breath. Slow. Controlled. From inside the grave. He stepped back. His legs felt weak. His mouth went dry. That wasn't possible. The burial had already happened. Certified. Documented. He stood there. Frozen. Then the breathing stopped. The grave went silent. Too silent. He covered the hole. Quickly. Poorly. Didn't care. He packed up his tools. Left the cemetery without locking the gate. He didn't report it. Didn't ask questions. Didn't come back the next day. The job was filled by someone else. The grave was never reopened. No records were changed. No explanation was given. He said later, some graves should stay closed. Every grave digger in these stories had something in common. They were practical people, hands-on workers, not the type to chase fear, not the type to imagine things. They didn't go looking for experiences. The experiences found them. None of them claimed to see ghosts. None of them said they were attacked. Nothing dramatic, nothing violent. And that's exactly why it stayed with them. What they experienced felt controlled, intentional, aware. Each moment followed the same pattern. Silence, then recognition, then a warning, a feeling, a line that should not have been crossed. One man heard his name spoken out loud. Another felt the ground move beneath his feet. One smelled breath where there should have been none. Others heard footsteps that matched their own. Laughter where no children were present. Breathing where no body should exist. None of these moments lasted long. Seconds, sometimes less, but every one of them understood the message. You are not alone. Cemeteries are not empty. They are occupied by memory, by grief, by something that stays. Grave diggers learn routines. They learn silence. They learn respect. And eventually, they learn limits. Every person in this video changed afterward. They avoided night shifts. They refused to work alone. Some quit entirely. Others transferred, not because they were scared of death, but because something responded, something noticed them. And once that happens, you can't unfeel it. You can't forget it. You can't go back to believing it's just dirt and stone. If you ever find yourself in a cemetery alone, and you hear a sound that doesn't belong, a voice, footsteps, breathing, do not answer. Do not investigate. Leave. Some places remember who listens. If you want to hear another real story, someone still refuses to talk about, watch the next video on your screen.